You are with the University of Karate, and we are continuing a study on the topic Kata, use less or use loss. We were continuing our previous conversation with Sensei Mike Biddle, and we were in the middle of a conversation. We thought we should just take a short pause and break that conversation into two. We're going to pick right back up and get right back into Sensei Mike Biddle's explanation and continuing conversation on this most interesting topic. Let's join him right now.
Third and there's fourth dimension, which I'm not going to talk about today. But the usefulness of it and where the use loss is that the journey ends there. It doesn't end there. Learn the patterns and let them become part of your repertoire, your system of movement, so that in time that pattern becomes an expression at any point in time or space.
Interesting. So the central nervous system needs this pattern to be developed, just like playing the piano. You need to know the notes. You need to know how to play the keys before you can do, a concerto or whatever type of awesome, piano mastery you want to do. So you have to program the central nervous system, and you have to get these techniques out. I know in Uechi-ryu there's the exercises where you do a number of different strikes, stepping, punching, that's drawn out of the kata, but very few people can find them in the kata. Like for instance, it's been said in the history books that the side kick, the Uechi side kick, was Kanbun's favorite kick, but you don't see it in the kata anywhere. When I went to Tokyo, Master Ihara said that in Seisan, that jump back, when they would jump back, there was a kick there that they stopped doing because it was difficult for people to do. So people kind of edited it out. But that kick was the side kick you see in Kanshiwa, that kind of oblique kind of kick. There are techniques that are drilled in Uechi that are drawn out of the kata that if they were really drilled would create a lot of proficiency. And also I'll say this, you don't need Muay Thai and all these different types of styles when you have Uechi. That's no denigration or saying anything negative about Muay Thai, but the knee strikes, the clinching and knee strike, the flying knee, all that is in Uechi. That jump back has a flying knee. The bow, when we bow and we grasp the palm over the fist, that is a clinch just like anything else. The low strikes to the leg, the high, all that is found in Uechi-ryu, but it has to be drawn out. That being said, we have to talk about Bruce Lee for a moment because he's one of the most famous proponents of breaking the forms or not getting tied down with forms, but being able to flow with these techniques that come from the form. As a matter of fact, in Jeet Kune Do, which I believe is a philosophy more than an actual style, he talked about being like water and not being locked into form. Why don't we talk about that for a moment?
All right, so you want to break the internet on this one, right?
Well, we could do that.
So Bruce Lee, so first off, let's talk about Jeet Kune Do real quick. Jeet Kune Do cannot be taught. Okay, I said it. It cannot be taught. Because Bruce Lee's concept was there is no pattern. So how can you teach something that has no pattern? So what they did with Jeet Kune Do is they took Bruce Lee's movements and they made it into a style. Sorry, that's not his intent. Failure. Again, I apologize, but that's the truth of the matter. So here's how it works. As John said, when you're learning a musical instrument, let's say you're learning the piano, you learn the notes, and then you learn how to play a song. And then you can play a song, and you're always playing somebody else's song. So you get Joe's song and you learn that, you get proficient at that, and years go by and you get good at very good songs and you get good at that. That's a level, and that's a very accomplished musician. But what's the next level? The next level is you start writing your own songs. You make your own music, which means you're now moving and creating notes and patterns that are new, and you're writing your own songs. Now, if you made that a style, you would teach your songs to your students, and then they would learn your songs, and then they would do the same thing, and then they would have a style. That's what's happened in the martial arts, and this is where the use loss of the kata becomes. Yeah, here we go. So the kata are that. You learn a song, and if you become a master in that technique, that form, that kata, you can do those songs to proficient levels.
You know the notes.
You know the notes and you know how to play the music. Some make their own kata. Like the piano, they write their own songs, and that's where you got the first three kata that Cameroon bought, Sanchin, Seisan, Sanseiro, then all the others were added by the other masters. How, who, where, it doesn't matter, they did. So now, you're playing your piano, and then someday a light bulb goes off and goes, what if I played a new song every time I played? And you never repeat it again. So every day you sit down and you play the song, and it's a beautiful song, and it's fluid, it's flowing, it's moving, it's got all the components, but it's still got the notes, it's still got the patterns, but it's new every time you play it. That becomes something that's unrepeatable, and you will never play it again, because why would you? Your goal now, you've gotten to a level where you just play. Imagine the level, what that would feel like to just play. So now we take our kata, and we do our forms, and we do them for years, decades, blah, 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 and that's all we ever do. We've not got to the next level. Then you go, well, that's cool. Let me create my own kata. What if I did my own kata? I made my own form and start practicing that. Then again, if you're a teacher and you did that, you'd teach your kata to your students and you'd repeat the pattern. And that's what's happened in the martial arts over and over and over. And then there's variations because this guy wants to do it this way, this girl wants to do it that way. Fine. It's all good. I don't care. But at some point, the forms become meaningless. The kata are important until they are not. When you get to a point where the patterns are so ingrained into your central nervous system, as John alluded to, that you can do all the movements, they're all there, they're in your head, why do you want to constrain yourself to a specific form? So I'll say it, I don't do any kata of the old school way of doing them. I do my own, and I do a new one every time I move. I never repeat the same movement. I never repeat the same sequence. I don't know what I'm going to do. And that's what Bruce Lee was talking about. Now, am I Bruce Lee? Of course not. But do I understand his concept? Yes, because I'm telling you what it is. Bruce Lee got to the point where he realized that he could use whatever he needed to use that would work in the sequence and the timing of when he wanted it to happen. And he perfected that to the nth degree, to a degree that none of us has ever seen since. But it does exist in the world. There's people that learn this and can figure this out. I went through this process. It took me decades, but then I finally wait a minute. What do I need? Why am I constraining myself? So if you say to me, Mike, what do you do if this guy does this or this? I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's whatever my body produces at that moment in time based on the circumstance and based on the line of attack, etc., the movements, the surroundings, everything. But that's where, and now I've got to loop back, that's where kata becomes so important, more important than we ever knew. Because you can't teach this in a loose setting. You can't do it, then you just got noodles. You got movements that make no sense. You got patterns that won't work. But if you ingrain those patterns with the kata, and you learn the technique, you learn the positioning. We spent videos talking about how precise the technique is. And that's why, because someday when you're done, when you're free from it, it's always in you. And then you can do whatever you want.
Well, I don't know what more we could say after that. Let's put a comma here. Let's put a comma here because there's a lot that we need to do, and we want to break this into a series. We're going to put a comma here and come back, and the next time we're going to come back again, we're going to examine to a greater degree Bruce Lee's theories and principles in Jeet Kune Do, what it is and what it's not, and how that applies to not only all martial arts, a synthesis of all martial arts, but is the purpose of half hard, half soft, is the purpose of Pangai No, is the purpose of Uechi-ryu, which is the purpose of attaining this being as water as it was, being as a person who's singing their song, knowing what they're doing, knowing the techniques, and being able to just flow with them. That's going to be our second talk. We'll put a comma, we'll come back and do that in our next talk. You've been with the University of Karate as we study the science, the history, the principles, even the physical deploying of techniques and what they mean. Please like and subscribe this video, and also let's continue this conversation in the comments until we come to our next talk. Thank you so much. We'll see you again.